I don't know. No, we've got to get you set up that way. We'll do that after the show. Love it. Oh, we're on social media. Now we're going live here, so. Welcome to In the Know with Steph and Joe, the show that's all about small business development. These two entrepreneurs bring real life experience, laughter, and just a ton of knowledge on how to build your small business and make it thrive. This is your creation, your baby. How to make it sing. Today, business nightmares. And of course, In the Know with Steph and Joe is brought to you through the financial support of
internet marketing strategy in place for your business. Epic Media offers an array of services such as web design, social media optimization, branding, and several others. Whether you need a custom web design or help integrating your social media accounts to your business marketing program, Epic Media is the company you want to rely on for your business. Oh,
that's
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
here we are.
And Restoration One and Steph's bookkeeping.
Yeah.
We represent too, I guess. So
Always.
Here we are.
Always.
Are we ready to talk scary stories?
Yeah. So we figured, since we're getting into spooky season, that we could do some scary business stories to tell in the dark. And things. We have all different categories. We've been meeting with several different small business owners, and they've given us all sorts of spooky stories. Most of them we are going to have. All the stories are by anonymous. We are not sharing any business names, any people, any people that want to chime in and give their own story. Feel free. We can send you guys a link. You can jump on. You can come by the studio at 1400 South Route 31 in the Tanyan Towers, and we can get you on, but you have to get here within the next 40 minutes.
Or you can shoot a text over to our web page that we are, our Facebook page that we have streaming, and we'll read them off. But what we'll do is hopefully we can get everybody to shoot their stories and everything in by 3:30, 3:40, and then we'll start reading them. The ones that we have come in, we'll start reading them at 3:45, 4. That way we can kind of rip through the ones that we have kind of already teed up from other people that we've heard from throughout the week. So I think we should get right into them, shouldn't we?
Okay.
Scary stories.
I kind of think that we should maybe start with the business operations ones, just because I feel like those are a little bit more basic. And as the hour goes on, let's ramp up these stories and really see how crazy we can get.
What we get into. Yeah, totally. I agree with that. All right.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. I can't wait for Mom. Mom's coming on next week.
Yep.
Let's plug that real quick. Oh, Mom's coming on next week. My mom will dial in from the island. I'm excited about that.
My mom will be flying in from Arizona to be live in the studio.
Oh, Linda, you and I are going to have fun. What do you like to drink, Linda? I will make sure it's here. What does she drink?
I'm going to bring it. It's Kahlua. So she'll drink Kahlua and cream.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Straight up? That's solid. That's scary, she said. Yes. Amen, Linda. It's very scary. We're going to have a great time.
Okay. So did you want to go with the first one?
What is the first one I'm going with?
We're going to call it equipment. That's the name of the story.
Okay. So very simply, I'll say this. It was us. This is one that I'm not going to make anonymous because it was us. There's no way to hide this one, being that we've had jobs where, or a time where we would get a storm that comes in. And so as a company, you want to be ready for whatever can come at you. And we may have enough people, enough employees to go out and tackle the jobs and whatnot. But if you don't have the equipment, you can't do the job correctly in our industry. So we knew storms were coming in, and we went out and rented, enough equipment to cause a dent in our budget. And we rented enough equipment to cause a dent, and we barely broke even on that equipment. And man, was that time it was one of the times that we weren't scrambling for equipment. We're like, we're going to get ahead of this storm, and we're going to be prepped, and we're going to be prepared and all this stuff. And then the storm comes and it hits. And while we did get jobs, we just did not. And we did use all our equipment. We did use some of the equipment that we rented. We did not use nearly what we thought we would. And we broke even on the equipment. And it was such a letdown for the storm of the century that was coming at the time. So what a bummer that was.
I tell my mom all the time that we live in this weird weather vortex that because where my subdivision is in McHenry, I feel like I could look one way and it looks like Bull Valley is gone.
Yeah.
And then I can look another way and it looks like Richmond is probably gone too. Sirens are going off all around, but my backyard's sunny, and I'll send her a picture of it. And she's like,
what the hell?
Yeah.
Right.
So I feel like those things are always hard to predict.
Our territory is that we operate is so expansive enough that when we get jobs called in, we'll get jobs where we're getting pelted up north, and everybody down south was like, oh, I didn't see anything. Nothing came by us. No, we're good. We're good. We're good. I'm like, how did you? Oh, well, everything was up north and it just diverted that way. So that was an interesting nightmare that we lived, where we weren't thrilled with the outcome because of, the expenses that went into that endeavor. But learning experiences, right? If you don't learn from nightmares, and that's what we're hopefully is going to be the theme, is everybody that here has learned from the nightmare, as it happens. So what's the next story?
I guess I could tell the story about the buyout. I don't know if you guys have ever worked for a company where the owners have sold or they've been merged.
Right.
And then you have these, little issues. Well, I knew someone that they didn't tell their staff that they were selling the company.
Wow.
Because the staff was going to be able to stay in place, and the new owner wanted the staff because of the industry.
Got it.
But because there wasn't the full disclosure and they weren't honest with their staff, a few people wound up leaving, which then ultimately affected their sale of the business.
That makes sense. That has happened before. Actually, quick side story, my background in insurance, the reason I went to the company I went to was because of a very similar situation where, one main guy left the company and quite a few people left with him because they felt that it was not going to be the same without that one key person being in place. And so that's a big thing that could happen. And did the company, I guess, make do?
Yeah, they were able to just extend the owner had to stay on longer.
Okay.
To kind of cover that sector.
Gap. Right.
And so they made it work, but with not being honest and upfront with your employees, they potentially are going to panic, and then you have this problem, and and they also didn't tell them that by this new company buying them, their offices are actually in different cities that are 45 minutes, so their staff is going to have to travel.
Full disclosure. You got to have full disclosure.
So,
that's a big one.
Yeah, because you have another story too, right, about relocation and everything.
Yeah, so I guess, here, since we're so early in the show and we're doing so good, I'm going to play a quick audio of a person that I interviewed. She is a real estate agent And what happened to her was her office is being consolidated. And so I'm going to play it. I was in a restaurant when I interviewed her, so it was I'm still new to this whole reporting, profession that I've just overtaken. So should I just stick it right here?
Yeah, just
stick it in there like real good.
Start again. What happened in your nightmare?
The 1st of October, I was told at a meeting that our office is closing the end of October. We have 30 days to
30
pack
days.
up
And get everything out.
and get everything out.
And how long have you been in that office?
30 years.
30 years. Down to 30 days. What a bummer. That is a nightmare. And how are you doing so far? There's a big eye roll there.
Yeah. Every day I'm bringing stuff home and trying to figure out where to put it at home.
Right.
Because the new office in Algonquin, we only get a little
Do you
table and a
do you want me to help? Do you want me to help with the file cabinet yet?
So we go into, she has a file cabinet that she needs moved because it has a lot of important records from years back that that are not digitized, and nor is she able to see them digitized or be able to access them, and she doesn't believe it. So there's just a lot of hurdles here for this situation, but it was something that she truly was distraught about, because they're moving her office that she's been at for 30 years and they're consolidating it from one town, and she's moving 20 minutes down the road, tops 15 maybe, but very, very distraught. And it was amazing how much that affected her in her life, with just a simple move that to me, I would be like, oh, okay, I can move. Not a big deal. But to her, it is an uprooting event. I was shocked at how much she was impacted by that move.
Well, I guess if I had 30 years of stuff in one spot,
right,
that's probably like a lot. Because I feel like I've only been in my office for a year, and now I feel like might need a U-Haul to take everything out of there. Like, there's a lot of junk in there.
Are you kidding me? I could get 2 guys in here and have that emptied in like an hour.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that place is
it's
easy.
recorded on air.
No, it's recorded on air. Yes, no. 2 guys, 1 hour. That your office will be your everything's online. You're all
well, I don't have papers, but I have the couch and a TV and a desk, and I don't know. There's like a lot of junk. And we have no elevator.
Just a few pieces of furniture, and they'll be out very quickly. I promise. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we could get into some of the funner stories. I guess
let's switch to a lighter note, because that one jerked my heart a little bit on how sad that one was for her.
Let's do. I think you want to do employees or clients.
Ooh. Let's do employees, because clients can get real dirty real fast. Let's do some employee ones, because those are fun. I do have some fun employees. I know you do too.
Okay, so you wanted to start off with a branding one, and I'll see if I can think of a branding story too that I've heard.
Okay, so this is amazingly recent that I get both sides of the spectrum, but there was an employee that was driving down the road, and I heard this. They were literally driving a very branded vehicle, and they lost something out of the bed of the vehicle on the road, and they called back to the home office after they got to the dump or wherever they were going. They got to the dump and they called back to the office and said, "Hey, I lost something on the road. Should I go back and get it?" And he was driving a branded vehicle, so. Yeah. MRFer, like, yeah, go back there and goddamn get that piece of trash or whatever the hell you were hauling that fell out in front of some vehicle that they ramped off of behind you. So just recently, I was driving down the road yesterday and had a bunch of garbage in the truck and was literally strategically watching it through my rearview mirrors and side view mirror to watch it and make sure. And I sure as hell lost a couple bags and pulled right over, threw my hazards on, and jumped out and ran back and grabbed the bag and was like, sorry, waving like, my bad, to every, car that drove by. I had to swerve around the bag. But I knew if I left that thing and was driving a branded vehicle, somebody's going to be like, oh, ring, 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 847-264-4664, because that's the number that's on the side and I want everybody to call. hello, your guy just dumped a bag of garbage, better go back and get it or whatever. So yeah, branding, man, that could be a huge nightmare.
Well, at least you got, or at least whatever you guys, like people, I guess, bigger construction type companies, they go to the dumps, or they have those special construction dumpsters. Someone that I know, they have a storefront, and then in the back they have a dumpster.
Okay.
And so they throw whatever their garbage from their storefront out in there. Well, I guess there was a individual that was filling their garbage up right after. So they get their garbage picked up on Fridays, and then someone was coming and directly filling it right after. And it was so bad to the point where they had to like hold their garbage inside their store for 6 weeks.
Because their garbage was being filled by somebody else.
Right. So then they got a lock on the dumpster. And they're like, so now it's going to be locked, and we'll unlock it and throw our garbage in there. And now this person or company or whatever can't dump there anymore. Right. Well, so then the individual was mad that they couldn't dump anymore. So then they strategically took like I don't know how they even managed this, but they put super glue inside the keyhole so you could only get the key halfway in, so you couldn't unlock it. So the only way to, I guess, get it open is they had to take it and cut the lock. Right. So put the garbage in and whatever. So in the last 4 weeks, they've gone through 6 locks, because every day he comes back and super glues their lock. And now the garbage company wants to charge them per lock now because of this situation.
Why don't they just get a video?
That's what I said.
And video the guy. We literally had somebody dumping in our dumpster in the back of our shop. I mean, every nightmare somebody's had, I probably got one that matched. That's just the same story, just a different location. We had somebody dumping in ours, and we had we put a sticker back there that says, "Smile, you're on camera," and put cameras up. And I caught one guy coming back there and dumping, and was like, "Dude, don't ever come back here again," and approached him. And it was a little sketchy to do that, but yeah, I mean, sketch.
So now her choice is either just let it be and pay for this locked dumpster that you can't lock, or she's gonna have to put a camera up and confront this person, or hope this person or company or whatever it is finds a different location to dump at and gets the hint. So.
I mean, you would think they would, after the lock's put on, people are watching you. Yep. But there's no camera. There's no signs that say you're on camera, even if there isn't a camera. You can put a sign that says "Smile, you're on camera," even though you don't have a camera. But hopefully somebody would get the hint and go,
So
license plate, better get out of here. Yeah.
So that's kind of
interesting.
Kind of the garbage story or whatever
those are always fun.
To go off of that, we had somebody call in with employee theft is their nightmare. So I'm sure a lot of listeners out there have had to do inventory once in their lifetime. Yes. And if you haven't, I feel like you need to experience that, because that is a nightmare in itself to do inventory, especially at a big company. I had to do inventory at a huge company, and we shut down. We literally shut down and shut operations down for 4 days to do our inventory every year. So, and we didn't have a computer system, so everybody had paper pick tickets.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I hope they've changed since then.
I don't know. This was probably 17 years ago at this point.
There was a job that we did real quick. This reminds me, there was a job that we did that the people had, they were an import business and had a bunch of merchandise to wholesale out. And the guy that ran the warehouse literally had everything in his brain.
Wow.
Everything. Hey, how many slinkies that are 3 inches tall, 3 inches wide, and 3 inches around or whatever, and how many slinkies do you have? And you go, I got 27 cases of 12. And you walk over and count the pile, and they're strewn. Everything was everywhere. The reason we got called in was because the ceiling collapsed, and everything was supported by the merchandise and shelving that the merchandise and shelving was on.
Oh, wow.
The ceiling was. And so we had to clear all the merchandise out. And guy literally knew where everything was and knew the count. It was unbelievable.
That's impressive.
This guy goes away. Nightmare for that place.
Yeah.
All right. What was your inventory?
Because like I feel like, you know, when you hire people, you guys kind of all become one happy, crappy family.
Totes.
You know, so you hope that these people that you're hiring and working with and doing all these things, that you could trust them.
Mm-hmm.
So this company had kind of loosey-goosey
hiring standards?
No, they just didn't have like proper policies and procedures in place for inventory incoming and outgoing.
Got it.
So there was no like, if you took inventory out, you didn't have to write slip.
Nobody was
really
writing stuff out. Nobody was tracking who took what.
So at the end of the year, they did a inventory count, and there was $250,000 missing out of the inventory. Wow. So when they are missing that amount of product, so who's going to get fired? The warehouse manager, technically, because they're supposed to be managing this and protecting it. Right. But so since they really didn't have any written procedures down, thankfully the warehouse manager was able to keep their job. But then they locked down the warehouse. So everybody lost their key to the warehouse. There was a counter built with like a locked door. And so you had to stand at the counter and you had to then hand your slip to a warehouse staff member. And then they'd go pull your product and then hand it to you. So because of this, like getting guys or people in and out, like to get to work, went from like a 5-minute process to now a 35-minute process, because you could only have so many people. Like you have 2 people that run the warehouse. So there's only so many people that could be assisting so many trucks at once.
Right.
So and so they had, that I had a funny, well, I think it's kind of funny, but with this hiring problem that everybody seems to be having.
Everybody.
So if you are breathing and can drive, you're pretty much hired. You're good. So this guy, he hired somebody. He has a fleet, and on his fleet, he has inventory on his trucks. Well, he hired this person. The person worked about a half a day and then just dumped the truck. Like somewhere, like
who took everything and ran?
No, just like dumped it and abandoned the truck. Like was like, I'm done. You know what? This job isn't for me. I'm not going back to the shop. I'll just leave the keys here. I'm out. And
keys are in the visor.
So he just like left the guy's truck. Like didn't tell him where he was. Nothing. Ghosted him. Couldn't find him. But thankfully, the business owner had a GPS. Like fleet management system, and so he was able to locate the truck, which was several miles away from where it was supposed to be. So
did he call some? I mean, he had to had somebody. Did he go get the truck, or how's he get? I mean, he's tracking the truck down.
Yeah, they just drove over there and picked it up. It was in like a parking lot.
I could not. Man, somebody's just driving. Here's the thing, though. I mean, for me,
I would take it kind of personally.
If somebody's driving one of my vehicles, they have to be working for me for months. Like our guys just don't get hired and start driving vehicles. They're working for us for a while. Now, granted, I don't have a fleet where I need one driver per vehicle or one person per vehicle. I could do 2 people per vehicle, so I could do one experienced and one new person. Still.
Yeah, but I do have to say though, to any business owner out there that does have a fleet, those fleet tracking systems, amazing. And I think we are going to do like a show on it. But like in one of, I guess I'll just say in one of my past lives, we had a fleet tracking system on the vehicles, and since I was one of the managers, I would get an alert on my cell phone. It would ring in the middle of the night if any vehicles were started or moved outside of the agreed parameters that we put in the GPS system.
And you got a good one, didn't you?
Yeah. So at 2:00 in the morning, my phone goes off, and then the vehicle's moving, and then it parks in a random parking lot, is there for 2 to 5 minutes, leaves, goes back to the house, and then another 45 minutes later, I get another alert. And then the driver goes to an abandoned building location and is there for 2 to 5 minutes. And then I get another alert. And then I guess it turns out, long story short, he was selling drugs out of the company truck in the middle of the night. So
I mean, you got to make your
Brilliant
cash.
business plan.
You got to make your cash, right?
There's no expense on his part.
Right? He had
Zero
a gas
expenses,
card.
right?
He had a gas
He
card,
had gas
our
paid for,
vehicle.
right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that's true. Like
He was late night branding, just
yeah.
driving
People out
around.
there.
Did you provide him the little baggies that he repacked his stuff into too? And the
I mean, he
scale?
could have taken
People out
them.
there thinking Steph's Books is just doing midnight deliveries. That's all.
Good thing it wasn't her company. Wink, wink, wink.
Yeah, and then we have
and then Rich came home.
Honey, the vehicle's here
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
business. Yeah,
the vehicle's
Yeah.
home.
I was
yeah.
using it. Kidding, Rich. Kidding, Rich.
I think you had you got a good insurance story.
Which one? I mean, we'll start with the since we're talking fleets of vehicles, we'll start with like however many times I've heard of somebody come up to tell me, and there's been one more recently where somebody's come up and said, yeah, I was, I got back and my guys were out all day and they came right back and I walked into the shop and there it is. The van's got a busted out light. Huh? How'd that happen? And everybody looks around and goes, I don't know. Well, God, I hope it's not on my insurance, right? Like, I've had another guy come up to me and tell me that he's had somebody absolutely, just do a bonehead move while driving and totally just take out part of their vehicle. And it's totally filed under work comp. It's filed under auto. It's, it's an auto claim. It's a work comp claim. Like, nightmares of insurance and your guys being like you and being represented by you. Oh, nightmares. You want to talk about not sleeping or being, there's so many different ways we could go down. I've heard many different stories for those. One of the ones that I told you, this is under insurance, but we're going to shift it a little bit to employees too and dangers. I had some guys that would roll off of the joists. Occasionally they do this. They'll roll off the joists in an attic and they will fall onto the drywall ceiling that is just below. Now, unfortunately, each time they seem to do this, it's always above the master bed. For some freaking reason, it's always right above the master bed. So it's drywall dust all over the master bed, right? And you're like, damn it. Yeah, go ahead, get those clean, and I'll get the drywall fixed and this and that. I've had one time, but every time somebody says I fell from the attic, I go, oh, how bad, right? There's the nightmare of it immediately flashes through my mind of oh, how bad is it, right? How bad is it? There's only one time where I actually witnessed, and I think it's the only time where we've had a guy go completely through. Most times they just crack the drywall and dust will rain down below a little bit, but it's enough that we pay attention to it. But the drywall is still there. It just needs to be structurally put back or whatever. But I've had one time where somebody has actually gone fully through. He slipped off of the plywood that was on the joist up above and literally fell. His leg went straight through. He ripped the crotch of his pants. His one leg was all the way through the drywall, hanging in the ceiling below. And his other leg was completely out on the joist. I mean, he did the splits, his pride and his ego and his nether region were all sore after that one. But that was the only time that we've had somebody go truly through the drywall that I can really remember. But yes, I mean, those are nightmares because every time that happens, you think, A, is your employee okay? Are they hurt? First and foremost, are they hurt? Then from there, it's crap. Now I got drywall to repair. I got a ceiling to paint. I got this to fix, right? Like there's so many nightmares that come with that. And damn it, the job that was up in the attic was only $200, but here I am doing $300 in drywall down below. No.
Of course, you're listening to 21.6 The Net. This is In the
Time
Know
to
with
plug it.
Steph and Joe. Steph and Joe brought to you through the financial support of
Damn it.
Restoration One of Carrie, of course, and
Yes.
Steph's books, obviously. And you guys have attained a new sponsor,
We have
Epic Media.
Epic Media.
Yeah.
When the continued growth of technology these days is essential that you have the effective internet marketing strategy in place for your business. Epic Media offers an array of services such as web design, social media optimization, branding, and several others. Whether you need a custom web designed or help integrating your social media accounts to your business marketing program, Epic Media is the company you want to rely on for your business. I got like more radio personality as I went
As
through
you went
that.
on.
I
You're
really
getting
like
there.
doing
Yeah.
it that way. I'm gonna work on that. Epic Media. Reach out to them. It is epicmediainc.com.
It's totally epic.
Epic. Totally. Toast my goats.
I guess I kind of have a funny story about when you don't brand your vehicles. I don't know if you guys have ever had like a white van pull up in your
Yes.
driveway and it's not branded or whatever, or they pull up in a subdivision or something.
We owned a van one time that was white, and
Yeah,
we called it Chester.
So you got to be careful. You got to be careful because I know somebody that they didn't have their vehicles branded yet,
Uh-huh.
and they went into a subdivision that was a little bit more upscale.
Uh-huh.
And one of the homeowners came out of their house with like a brown paper bag and their hand in the bag, and it was like a housewife. So it was like an older housewife, and she came out and she was like looking at the van and approaching it with her hand in the bag. And so the guy in the truck rolled it down and was like, "Oh, hey, Mrs. So-and-so." And she's like, "Oh," and then she put the brown paper bag behind her back. And so she's like, later on, they were like laughing about it, like, "Oh, she almost shot me."
Holy smokes.
So you gotta be
I mean,
careful.
There's so many stories out there about people that roll in a white unmarked van, but they may be of different race, and so they're taken a different way, and people approach them much harder core than me, a skinny white dude, or you, a short white girl, right?
You don't know I'm short until I get out of the vehicle.
I can tell you're short when you're in the vehicle.
No,
too.
because I have a seat raiser in my car.
She sits on a bag of charcoal
So
or a
it,
phone book or something like that.
Raises my seat, so I'm like higher.
She has blocks on the pedals.
So I'm just
That's
saying.
what I used to use too when I was 16.
I'm just saying. So because I mean, like one of my clients was like, "Oh man, you're so much shorter in real life."
No, I'm just the same height as I was as always in real life. I was never shorter in real life.
So what are some of the nightmares that you've caused when you were an employee?
What?
I mean, I can tell you the industry I left, at minimum, the guy that managed the office, definitely knew who I was. I was the only guy in a 130 person office on one floor of 500 West Monroe that was the only guy in a cube farm that walked in camo and jeans, not a dress up and a button up or a polo or something like that, dress slacks. I was the only guy in jeans and a camo jacket, and would come in probably smelling a little skunkier than I should, and would sit in a cube farm and would be loud as ever. No. Yeah, I mean, I could project my voice, and I'd get onto a phone call and I just yell and scream and not care about the 50 other people that are sitting in the cube farm right next to me, and I wouldn't care. And I know my office manager knew who I was, but I made money, so he had to answer to the people that complained and not to me, right? Like, you make money, you're not. I guess I'm not. I caused a nightmare. I just wasn't.
Mm.
I definitely caused a nightmare there for sure. I can tell you that one.
I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if I caused the nightmare or what nightmares I would have caused. I don't know. But I feel like
you
I
just
guess-
don't want to admit it.
I guess it's always a problem when the last 3 jobs I had before opening my business, no supervisor wanted to claim me as their direct subordinate.
That's a nice.
That is a nightmare right there. Listen, that's a nightmare. Yeah.
So I guess I was difficult to manage. I feel like when I first started getting like some tattoos and I had some piercings or whatever, when I switched into the accounting department, I definitely didn't fit the mold for that everybody else looked like in the accounting department. And the VP was very straight laced and he just didn't find my sense of humor funny. And he was always very nervous when I would call him from the tattoo parlor. Like, because I had to call and get it approved for me to wear sandals when I got my foot tattooed.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I
believe that.
I'm slightly allergic to tattoo ink, so I have a lot of swelling. It's fine. And so
don't worry, I'll be okay.
So yeah, he like never knew what was going to happen, and it always like made him nervous. But yeah, I guess my last 3 supervisors didn't want to claim me as their subordinate. I mean, they've had clients call in and be like, "Oh well, I told her what to do and she didn't do it," and my boss was like, "Well, I've been trying to tell her for 15 years what to do, and she didn't do anything."
So good luck from here on out.
Oh, I understand.
I mean,
that would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Absolutely.
Is that why I'm an entrepreneur now?
Yeah,
and I work for myself?
Listen, me too. I just listed 1 job, not the past 3. Like, we can keep going back. I bet there's a trend between us entrepreneurs on who employs us. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, have you guys ever, with you guys being men, have you ever had a situation where an employee or a coworker tried to intimidate you? Have you ever had that happen to you? Because I've had that happen to me as a girl.
When I used to work, not an employee. Well, she didn't intimidate me, but she definitely tried to like do stuff that was like, like approach me and be like, "Ooh, look at me," and like trap me, right? In a way
she's
that's
gonna get you in a hashtag me too.
Yeah. But this was before hashtags. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely had. My wife knows the story, so it's really funny. And it was when I was in the shoe store, and this chick was just, I employed her. She was grinding the counter and staring into the mirror.
Good hire for a shoe store. But
I will tell you, nobody was in the shoe store, and I just turned around and she's sitting there grinding the counter and looking in the mirror at herself.
Was she making a TikTok?
No, there was no TikTok back then. There was barely AOL Messenger back then. This was like freaking like in 2000.
A Tuesday afternoon?
Yes, she was literally just like, I had music on and she's just grinding the counter, and I turn around and she goes, "Oh, sorry, what?" And like, I'm like, "Oh man." And my wife just goes, "Yep, that's so and so. That sounds just like so and so."
I think one of the best things is when Rich and I used to work together. I mean, before
as a female, you've been intimidated because you asked that question with a lead in.
Well, okay, so like I wouldn't say I was intimidated. There was an attempt to intimidate.
Right. Okay.
I'm not really easily intimidated.
I don't see you as being easily intimidated.
But there was a new hire. He was unaware of the chain of command. And he decided to corner me off camera there's like a blind spot in the warehouse, and he knew where the blind spot was. And so he kind of cornered me over there, like in the morning, like at 5:30, because I was getting vehicles out at 5:30 in the morning. And he wanted me to raise his pay without telling the owners. And, and whatever. And he was trying to like get all close talky and stuff, you know how people do. And
I don't know what you're talking about.
So like I just was kind of like laughing at him, and he was kind of looking at me like I was crazy. And then one of the other guys happened to come into the warehouse, and he approached him and he's like, "Oh no, we don't talk to her like that. We don't do that."
Yeah, hey bro, don't do that.
But I think the best thing that ever happened to Rich, hopefully, I mean, I'm just whatever. I guess that's not an anonymous story now.
That one ain't anonymous anymore.
That cat's out of the bag.
But there was a female employee that was hired at the company we were both working at, And I said, not a good idea. And I said, whatever. She was batshit crazy. And so I was sitting at my desk, and she kind of worked primarily with like Rich's department. And I was sitting at my desk, and she's just like, I don't know how to, tell you this or approach you with this, but your husband is really flirting with me and it's making me uncomfortable. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, like he, is really hitting on me. And I'm like, well, shit. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, don't worry about it. I'll get it handled. And I called Rich and put him on speakerphone. I'm like, hey, stop flirting with so-and-so. It's making her uncomfortable. And he didn't know he was on speaker. And he's like, I wouldn't, talk to her and said whatever he described her in his, like how her appearance looked to him.
One of those.
He like,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, see? I'm like, it's a misunderstanding. He's not flirting with you. And then Rich realized he was on speakerphone.
Anyway, oh, my bad. No, don't worry, sweetheart, Rich. You did exactly what I needed you to do.
But I'm like, how do you go up to somebody's wife and like...
Because she's just a drama starter. That's one of those spoons, right? They're just there to stir shit up.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a nightmare. I've had more clients hit on me than, and I bet, I doubt Carrie's listening.
Must be a bunch of lonely men out there.
I was just going to say, my wife's picking up, but if my wife's picking up the girls, but if she was listening, she would probably chime in on how many lonely men have hit on me. Yes, you are exactly correct. I'm a svelte young man. Not young anymore, but I was at one year.
Maybe it's the red leather jumpsuit.
I mean,
you show up
once I show up in my Eddie Murphy Raw outfit, with no undershirt, people, the guys really start to get heated.
It's the bibs.
It's the bibs. It's the bibs. I mean, yeah, we've had some. There's times where I go home to Carrie and I go, oh, so this lady, Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Smith, whoever I was at for an estimate, I said, I walked in, I like to be nice and charming and whatever. And this lady, I swear to God, if I would have stopped, she would have tripped and fell right on top of me because she was so close behind me with everything I did. Like, yeah, yes, there are times, but I'm a guy. So like, I'm good. My wife and I know each other's relationship. She knows I'm going to flirt with people, especially old ladies, because I just like to do that to myself. But what? Don't hate.
I'm not hating.
That was like a snicker hate. A hate snicker.
Rich just comes home if he gets hit on at work, and he's like, "I got options." I'm like, okay, honey.
I'm doing that when I get home. The lady down in Del Webb. I got options.
So let's take a look at a couple nightmares. Here's another question that has come in: it's your business, you own it, right? So,
right.
An employee creates a nightmare, but you're like, hell, that probably would have been me a few years ago, so I'm okay with this nightmare. Have you had any of those?
Yes. You?
Well, I've only had.
Are we going into
an employee?
Into these?
Well,
I have a lot of employees. So I have a lot of employee stories, but yes. Go ahead.
mean, when I was a manager previously, I would say. I mean, because like I've only had one employee for a few months, and she's very. She doesn't have like a whole lot of client interaction, so.
Easy. Yeah.
But yeah, in a previous life, I mean, I've watched an employee go out and rip a bong. And then they come to their desk. This is like when I worked in a call center, and they were talking to the client about a product or whatever, like their pump was broken, like for their swimming pool.
Oh,
so
sorry.
And then he was trying to explain to them about the water, like circulation from the pump and whatever, and the importance of it. And
what kind of pump again?
For the pool.
Oh, got it. Okay,
and then he got completely distracted and started talking about washing machines. Like, he was just like, and like,
that's too funny.
Like, he's like, yeah, it gets the clothes super clean when the agitator.
come again? I thought we were on pumps here.
But
what kind of pump?
I don't know. I mean, yeah.
A pool pump. That's what it was.
We don't.
Pool pump.
I don't think I think I've usually been at the top of the heap when it comes to the crazy.
Right?
So one time, I'll say this just because this is always a good one that my wife, she remembers this story through and through. Like this happened, I was selling shoes. I was, God, her and I were probably 20, 21 years old. We were young. We weren't married. We weren't even engaged yet. We probably had been dating for like a year, maybe 2 years at the time. And I had these people come in with a pair of shoes. They were in a box, and I was the manager of the shoe store. And this was during like back to school sale. So I had like all these employees, and I would employ my wife to come in and help like just ring up sales. And then my employees would sell, and then they just hand them to her, and she'd ring them up under them and all this. And it was a great system. And we were all doing good. And these people walked in with this return, and I walked over it, and I'm managing, and I handled the return, and I opened the box, and in the shoe box was these shoes, but the kid took and colored the inside of the box with crayons, entire inside of the box. And then they put the shoes back in the box without any like tissue paper separating. So the shoes were covered in crayons. And I'm like, I can't return these. I'll exchange them. Seems fair to me, right? Being that the shoes are not physically damaged, besides the fact that they're totally colored, but the fact that they don't, I can't resell them. I'm out that pair of shoes, but I will totally give you a pair of shoes of equal value if you just didn't, because they literally, their excuse was we didn't want them. Okay, fine. So they got all mad. They walked out. Dude was heated. And I'm like this 20-year-old kid with a 50-year-old guy and his, son there, and he's yelling at me in my store. And I'm like, nope, you got to walk. Peace. If you're not going to exchange them, I'm not going to return them. Goodbye. So then they leave. Half hour later, my wife's doing her thing, and this young girl comes in, and I remember specifically, this is how ingrained into my brain this is I had 2 clients I was handling. So, and back in the day, we put shoes on the client in the chair. So like I was putting shoes on people, and this girl walks in with a bag of shoes, and I knew it was a return just because I know my And she walks right up to the store, and my wife looks at her and boppity boppity boop and boopity boop, and she walks out with no shoes and cash in her hand. And I walk back there immediately, and I open the box of shoes, and I see the coloring on the inside of the box, and I fucking threw those shoes as far as I could in the back of the store. I whipped those shoes so hard, and my wife goes, "I'm going home. I am done." I guarantee she remembers that day. I'm still my blood boils because it literally was the principle of that guy went back and sent like the kid's older sister in to return the shoes. And like, it was just like, no. And I was so heated over that. And that was an employee, because at the time she was operating under me as an employee. And I still get that one, still boils my blood. I don't know why it is, but wow, that one still brings up nightmares for me.
Speaking of people getting mad, in one of my former life, there was so like we dealt with more people that like had like white collar jobs, and it was just whatever.
Yeah, people with pools.
Yeah, so that was just kind of what we dealt with. There was a renter in one of the houses one time, and we didn't normally
rented
deal.
A house with a pool.
Yeah,
baller.
So we normally don't deal with renter. Well, actually, it was his girlfriend that rented it. She had the money. He didn't have the money. He was a stay-at-home boyfriend. And so
solid.
So he rented the whatever. So we were dealing with that, and then he called up, and he was like really like verbally abusive to one of my staff. And so then I took over the call, because usually I could handle getting yelled at way better than other people. And so she's crying. I'm on the phone then, and I was like, "Well, look, you're fired." I'm like, "We no longer want you as a client." I'm like, "Thanks very much. We're done.
Have a great day."
And then he's like, "Well, you can't do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can." And then he's like, "Well, I'm going to call the owner." And I'm like, "Well, good luck. Go ahead." And then he's like,
the phone rings. You go, "The owner."
Yeah. And so we're going back and forth. And he's like, "I want my filters." And I'm like, "Well, then come and get them. Then come to the.
Come pick
them
up.
Like,
we're not shipping them to
like,
you or whatever.
You're going to deliver them, and you're going to deliver them by 5 p.m. or else." And I'm like, "Okay." And then so he wants to fight me. So I'm like, "Okay, well then come up to the office and we're going to fight." And then so I Google him after the phone call is over. and
After
then-
you've challenged him to a fight in your parking lot.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
Then
gonna
you
be-
decide to Google him.
Yeah, we're gonna meet at the flagpole.
Did
That's
you
what's happening.
at the flagpole at 3:30? Did you already check to see if he has cauliflower ear? Because
I
I
never-
will never fight anybody with cauliflower.
I've never seen him, and I've never met him, so I don't know what he
So
looks
you
like.
don't know if he has cauliflower.
No,
ear.
but I'm used to dealing with people that really wouldn't want to go to jail because they have high-profile
Can't-
jobs.
because they can't get there. True. Fair
And
enough.
so
Okay.
this is like the clientele I'm used to. So when he
Got
was
it.
like, "Oh, he's gonna fight me," sure, come up and fight me. And then so
Challenge accepted.
yeah, so then I Google him, and yeah, no, he was has a criminal background. He was arrested for domestic violence, and he's a pedophile.
Does
and
his girlfriend know this?
I don't know, but so I was like, oh my god, he's not afraid to hit a woman. So then I was like, so then I start calling all the guys in the field, and I'm like,
calling off fleet.
I'm like, hey, who's the closest to the shop? When are you all done with your route? When are you coming back?
yeah, get here ASAP.
And like, there's a guy coming up here and whatever. And I explained the situation to one of the field guys, and he's like, well, why are you so afraid? And I was like, well, because he's domestic violence and a pedophile. And he's like, well, you're old. He's like, so you have nothing to worry about because he's not going to pedophile you. And I'm like, and then like, it kind of made me feel slightly better in the moment. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like,
Fair
so-
enough. Okay, I'll accept that.
I'm like, so rape is off the table, but I still might get punched in
but
the
I
face.
still might get beat up or killed, but at least I won't get,
So then,
defiled in any manner.
Right.
Oh, good.
so then what I did was what any normal person would do is I turned the lights off and locked the door.
And hid in the back corner of the building.
He never came.
Oh,
he never showed
doubt
up.
I mean, most people aren't going to show up to something like that. The only people that really are like truly crazy people.
Well,
Yeah,
never.
exactly.
you
But
never
that's
know.
like a 1%. That's like the 1% that are the billionaires is like the same 1% that are at the crazy end of the spectrum.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, you just
I
never
guess
know.
you never know when you run into that 1%.
Right. You never know
Fair
when
enough.
that like happens. I mean, because I want to share this one story of someone that they called in and gave us the story that they had a client, and they had only met the client like one time through the initial like walkthrough and bidding of the job. And so it's a woman owned business, and the client was like a family. It was a husband, wife, and kids.
Right.
And then so they were doing whatever they do, and then the husband started coming to their shop and started taking pictures.
This is really hard. I know the story you're talking about, and the hesitation that you have here is to hide and and keep it anonymous.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So the hesitation here is due to keeping this anonymous.
Yes. So the person whatever would come to their shop and take pictures of their vehicle and send it to them and say like, hey, like I see you at your office, blah blah blah.
See you here.
So like
I'm
it was kind of
creeper.
like this is
Yeah.
a little weird, but I guess
Right,
whatever
totally.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. But then the person started taking pictures at their kids' sporting events.
of
their vehicle. So then
Wow.
she decided like, whatever, I got to tell my husband. So she tells her husband. Then they decide to get a different vehicle because they're like, oh, whatever, like we'll just get a new car and it'll be fine. Not really sure the logic behind it, but whatever.
Yeah.
So then they get a new car or whatever, and then she happens to run into this person at Starbucks, and then they see the new car. So then they start taking pictures of the car. But
damn.
her husband is driving the old car. So he sent a few pictures of her husband driving the car, and she told the person like, oh, that's my husband driving the car. I'm like, why would you tell
really
him that the husband driving the car? I would have texted my husband and be like, hey, go outside. He's right there.
He's like, dude's taking a picture of you right now. Go get him.
Right. And I'm
Attack.
like sitting there thinking about like this whole story and situation. And I'm like, as a female business owner myself, like I've had like some clients kind of not really like cross a line to that extent, but like be a little like overly flirty or something. But I don't know. I feel like it's more scary when you're a woman being hit on or pursued by a guy than is for
sure,
you
'cause
guys when
there's
you're pursued by a woman. Like, do you get the same level of fear or no?
Absolutely not. When there is a 67-year-old lady that's hitting on me and she is shorter than you in a wheelchair or with a cane, I feel zero intimidation. Yeah, I feel zero intimidation. I feel like, man, I could drop kick this lady across the room. She's so light. If she attacked me, I could easily defend myself.
Yeah.
Unlike, I'm sure you, where...
First of all, we'd just like to say that for all the 67-year-old ladies out
I
there,
do
we know
not-
that you're very healthy and in shape, and you could not be
drop
kicked
across the room.
the
That was
room.
that was a mere
21-6 the net. The thoughts and
So
opinions
speaking
of
of
this
liability nightmares,
Yeah, you want to talk about, we're right in the middle of it now. Where is Chucky right now? This is amazing.
wait, we have one more little genre to go through. The Friends one. Did we do some Friends yet?
Oh, I think it's kind of been like mixed in there a
Mixing it.
little
All
bit.
right.
But like, have you guys ever worked with friends, like friends of business? I mean, you and Pete are friends. You're not family.
Yeah.
I have. So I go ahead.
Yeah.
You go.
So
with your-
really,
Well, they still like each other. So
Yeah,
well,
that's true.
Well,
We
this
have-
station started with two different founders and myself.
Okay.
And it was evident that we had to have a strong we're all very good friends, still friends to this day, and God rest Ron's soul, rest in peace. But there was a hard conversation you had to have. It was truly kind of a nightmare because you are friends, and when you have it's hard to separate that friendship from
And business.
Hey, there's a business.
Yep.
And it was tough. It was tough for all of us, and it was kind of a nightmare for a little while. But then you get through it, and everybody realized that it was the right thing to do at the right time. But yeah, and you. I'm not the only one, but you've probably seen a lot of friendships ruined because of business or business decisions, especially if they've come to work for you.
I definitely have. I
Yeah.
mean, we luckily as Carrie and I, my wife and I, we have hired friends in the past, and we have one right now that is a friend of ours. She's amazingly dedicated to her job. It is not anywhere a nightmare. She's awesome. But she happens to live 4 houses down from us across the street, and her middle child is the same age and best friends with our oldest child. So they play every day. They're over at their house. I pick their kid up, their middle child up from elementary school every day with my kids, and they just jump in the truck. They know exactly, they are a part of our family just as much as we are a part of theirs. Now, on the flip side of that, I have a friend who he was leasing a space for his business, and he had this lease tied in, and he went to go and renew the lease. However, he didn't want to renew the lease. He wanted to get out of it and go to a smaller space. But somebody else, one of his other friends, reached out to him and said, "Hey, I'd love to share a space with you. How about we share your space together? I'll get out of my lease that I'm in, and I will come and join the lease with you." And he said, "Sounds great." So he renewed his lease on the verbal agreement that this other said character was coming in to join him in his space. And the other character backed out. So this friend, my friend, was tied into that lease for X amount of time, costing him thousands through for a commercial lease for a year or whatever it was, and ultimately I imagine they probably still say hi in passing, but there's definitely not the relationship that they had as friends before, because of that strife in their agreement. So, but yeah, I mean, you go into business with friends?
No.
We both are in business with friends. You and I.
I mean, like,
You and I are in a business here.
I mean, I guess.
And then we're both in business with our spouses. I mean, that whole last episode was our friends, our closest friend.
Like my friends, I don't know if I would take the risk. I think that Rich is the only person that I would take the risk with, because if we got divorced, he'd get 50% anyways.
What if you knew that friend works hard as hell?
I feel
like what if you knew
this-
that friend worked harder than you on an everyday basis, and you know that no matter what you went into with that friend was going to be like a hard worker? If that was the case, would you give it the shot?
No.
You don't ever want to tarnish that.
I don't know. I have like a huge fear of working with friends because I feel like I've hired like some friends seasonally, like when I worked
Uh-huh.
in previous life, and when I've had to fire them, it's very uncomfortable or let them go for the season because it's seasonal,
So
or
was
like
the
it's uncomfortable.
communication at the beginning of the hiring not crystal clear as to why they were being let go at the end? So would that be it?
No, like it just there's seasonal. You got hired for a seasonal job,
Right.
like you know
Okay,
that
so
it
they knew
ends.
that. They
That, like,
knew
there is
that.
a hard end, hard
They
stop.
knew that they
I mean,
were going to be
I've
ended.
even had to fire my own brother when like he was in the
That's
office.
hilarious.
So
Are we done? We're it?
Hey.
All right, should I wait? We'll read ours. Yep, read yours first.
Huh?
You read yours. You
Steph
do
with
yours.
Steph's bookkeeping service. You could call us at 847-942-3004. Steph at stephsbooks.com or stephsbooks.com and fill out our pricing calculator.
Joe Turner, Restoration 1, 847-264-4664. All your restoration needs. If a cleaning service won't clean it, we will. We love the dirty, the grimy, and all the stuff in between. 847-264-4664. Please give us a call. We are also sponsored by Epic Media Inc. At epicmediainc.com. With the continued growth of technology these days, it is essential that you have an efficient internet marketing strategy in place for your business. Epic Media offers an array of services such as web design, social media optimization, branding, and several others. Whether you need a custom web designed or help integrating your social media accounts to your business marketing program, Epic Media is the company you want to rely on for your business. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Hope you guys have a great weekend.